with STPI for this roundtable discussion on Pakistan's transformative digital future, growth strategy, and roadmap. And there's a very interesting technical assistance which ADB and STPI will be implementing through their collaboration, about which I would not delve further. I'll let the moderator for this session, Nasser Saab, do that introduction and take the proceedings forward. But before I maybe give the proceedings to Nasser Saab, maybe we are a small group. We could have a round of introductions and then come to the head table. So I'm Waqar Ahmed. I'm Joint Executive Director at STPI. So.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Akil Khurshid, the CTO Neatel.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Parvez Abbasi. I'm a serial entrepreneur and general do-gooder.
Said Chaudhary, lead implementation consultant or digital transformation.
I'm Suhail Abbasi, and I'm working as TA coordinator on the same TA.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Aftab Haider. I'm the CEO of the Pakistan Single Window.
My name is Nasrumin Allah. I'm actually the team leader for this, the TA that we are implementing. I'll talk about it a bit later. But Nasser is my short name because the name is too long. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Yong Ye. I'm the country director for Asian Development Bank in Pakistan. Nice to meet you.
I am Ali Asghar, Senior Joint Secretary, Ministry of Information Technology and Telecom.
I'm Muhammad Arif Sargani, Director General, Pakistan Telecom Authority.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jahara. I run a startup accelerator called Catalyst Labs, and I work with startups as well as work with women to build their business capacity.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ibrahim Amin, and I am the chairman of Pakistan Freelancers Association.
Assalamu alaikum. Nazim Latif. I'm retired civil servant of Commerce and Trade Group.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Ali Salim. I work with the ADB and World Bank as a consultant. I'm a former citizen.
Maybe if I could request the online participants to introduce themselves as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Jordanka Tomkova, and I am going to be an expert on SDPI's team to bring the strategy to its conclusion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Salam, and I lead the National Incubation Center for Aerospace Technologies, and probably I'm the most boring person in this room.
Not at all, Ji. I think we're expecting some really insightful discussion on startups and what helps the startups and what actually inhibits their growth in this ecosystem from you. So hearing from you will be a delight, I'm sure. So, Dr. with your shall we proceed? Thank you. So the way the program has been structured is that we will first have a special opening remarks from the country director, Yongye, sitting next to me. And then I will ask Senior Joint Secretary, Ministry of Information Technology, if he would like to speak immediately after, or maybe he would like to conclude, but I'll ask him right now after this opening remarks from CD Yongye. So over to you, CD Yongye.
Thank you, Nasser, and good afternoon again. Good afternoon, the Senior Joint Secretary, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be here and talk to you with this very important and interesting topic. I'm very pleased to see there are a lot of important stakeholders are presented at today's meeting. Although we do not have a big number, but I was told this was by design to ensure that we will have good engagement and interaction with all of you. So taking this opportunity, I would like to thank the SDPI for inviting me to this event. Everyone knows that the digital transformation has become the center of discussion for the economic growth and development recently. So what is the digital transformation? It is a process that uses the digital technology to improve the performance and efficiency of the public and private sector, to improve the living standard of the population and to foster the economic growth and development. This transformation involves the adaptation and integration of digital technologies, solutions across various domains, including the governance, commerce, agriculture, and also delivery of public services such as education, health, and etc. No doubt that the digital transformation or development is boosting the economic growth and also competitiveness. And it will continue to do this. The digital economy is contributing about close to 16% of global GDP nowadays. It enables new business models, market opportunity. It improves the productivity and efficiency. And it also fosters the innovation and entrepreneurship, as we have been observing nowadays all over the world. I have to add that the digital transformation or technology will also enhance the social inclusion and cohesion by reducing the digital divide, promoting digital literacy and skills, and also by taking care of the marginalized and vulnerable groups. In Pakistan, there is an immense benefit that we can draw from the digital economy by promoting digital skills and literacies among the women, urban poor, youth, and also rural communities. The Ministry of IT, Information Technology and Telecoms estimates that the contribution of the digit and IT sector to the GDP will increase from 2.7% in 2019 to 13% in 2025. And the export from the IT-enabled services has go beyond $2.6 billion in 2022 alone. These are very encouraging numbers and show the tremendous potential of IT and digital transformation in Pakistan. It is, however, important to note that the digital transformation can only be more effective if we take a holistic approach in addressing the challenges we are going to face and in supporting the inherent strengths of the country, such as our youthful population. I have to say, those transformation also requires policy changes, institutional strengthening and coordination, and of course, technical and financial support. So it's in this context that ADB recognized that there is a huge potential of digital transformation in Pakistan, and also there is a need to understand the country's digital landscape better. So we approved this TA about $750 million, meaning $750,000 to support the country through the Ministry of IT and Telecom to this country to prepare, first of all, a comprehensive report that will be investigate and map the networks and also the supply chain in the digital ecosystem of the country. Based on that, we are going to help the country to formulate a comprehensive national digital policy framework and also a master sector development roadmap, which will cover the upcoming 10 years. We will look at to build the capacity of relevant government officials on the new internet-enabled or based business model for more effective regulation. In doing this, ADB will work closely with development partners, the government, the think tank like SDPI, to create synergies and to ensure the complementarities of our support to this very important sector and to develop a connected and conductive ecosystem for IT development in Pakistan. And I do believe we will benefit from today's discussion, and I do hope some of the key findings and recommendations from today's discussion will find its way to the future policy discussion as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, CD Young, for giving us the overview and the background of the TA, and more importantly, your optimism and commitment for this very important sector. You know, we all believe in this sector. That's why we are here. So the idea was to get the right people in the room and bounce it off, you know, the not just the TA, but also the ideas that we all have. And by the end of this session, maybe have something tangible that, you know, the policymakers can be happy to discuss. Before I go further, I think I noticed we have some familiar faces that have joined the discussion, and I'm very happy to see, you know, Parvez Saab and also Usman Nasir Saab, and also a couple of people online. Ignite has joined. So I would request, starting with Parvez Saab, to also introduce yourself for the benefit of the rest of the participants here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nasimullah. I'm Parvez Iftikhar. My expertise is basically telecommunications. I have worked in this field for more than 40 years now, in the private sector and with the government also. Presently, I'm doing some consulting work outside Pakistan on telecommunication policy and regulation.
Thank you, Usman Saab.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Usman Nasir. I was the previous managing director for Pakistan Software Export Board, and currently I'm working on a few initiatives with some wealth management companies in Hong Kong to set up large Pakistani technology enterprises. And I'm also working on Pakistan's first digital wealth management entity.
Online, Bilal, please.
Everyone, I'm Bilal Abashi. I'm working as general manager and looking after the startup ecosystem, innovation, and entrepreneurship, along with the capacity building programs in Pakistan. So been part of policy making at Ministry of Information Technology as well as DGIT. Currently, I'm at Ignite looking after the programs I've just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Bilal. And once again, it's our pleasure together with STPI to have all of you in the room today. And I must also add that, you know, the participants have been rather modest in introducing themselves, because, you know, some of the people I know have a wealth of experience. And Dr. Nazim, I know because he just mentioned that he's an ex-civil servant, but he's got immense experience in trade. He's spent all his life in the Ministry of Commerce. And so lots of, you know, diversity in the room, not just technical, but also on the policy side, which is what we really need. So by way of background, although I think CD Young has done an excellent job of, you know, introducing the work that we are doing, I feel I'll talk a bit about the TA also by way of background. But by way of you know, importance of the sector, you see, the only thing that we hear these days, the chatter is all about AI. So yesterday, Parvez was moderating a session on AI, and I was on the panel. So we had a very interesting discussion. So this is what if we had a chatter meter, so on social media and in general drawing room chatter, I don't know whether politics will be ahead or whether it will be AI. So AI is getting very important. So there's also talk of, post-labor economics, some of the things, some of the ideas, just by way of sectoral understanding, just to sort of spice up the discussion. So that's what's being discussed. So the post-labor economics, the way AI is going to change economies and societies. So there is discussion of universal basic incomes and robocalypse and machines taking over jobs. So in terms of how AI is going to lend scale to production, or how it is going to reduce cost in manufacturing. So AI is poised to add trillions to the economy by 2030. Exactly how much, nobody knows. So it's like reading tea leaves here. Everybody's doing that. It's an, I think, excellent time to be in the prediction business. So people are doing that. So, but I think I mentioned this interesting thing in the previous session that how many of us remember, we had this small town doctors who would have these computers by their table side. Doctor, you would remember this, who would say that Ilaj Bazaria computer. So we were really ahead of times, years ago. So, but now really it seems that the computers are really coming for jobs in certain sectors. So but AI promises to add some velocity into the ecosystem, the way we conduct transactions, the way problems are going to be solved, the way we are going to navigate situations at work and life. Education and health sectors too, I would just mention too, which stand to be disrupted. Doctors, as I said yesterday, are already unhappy about patients coming to them and talking to them and telling them all about the problems and the symptoms and the probably medications that they would prefer. So that's how AI and the new technology and the acceleration it is lending to not just social transactions, the way fintech, knowledge transactions. I think that's the velocity that is changing everything. And to this, I think, as I said, there is a discussion of, if in post-labor economics, people will not have jobs. So, that reduces aggregate demand. So who is going to demand for goods and services? So that's an important factor. And then which is tied to the discussion of universal basic income. So there are social implications to this also. So that's but that also sets us thinking that every ecosystem, for example, is different. Different countries have taken different digital transformation trajectories, and we've seen Korea, we've seen Singapore, Vietnam, for example. Recently, a good example of transformation, Vietnam, and more close to home, India. So what we actually wanted to intervene in the sector back in 2018 when we decided to look at a possible project of a software technology park, which was supposed to be located in Karachi. It was an encumbrance-free land at civil aviation land, but somehow, because of the political changes, we were not able to pursue that. We mobilized some grant back then also. And then, but lately, you see, it sort of is a testament to the importance of this sector, that ADB also decided to see, whether we can add some value to this. And then we thought, let's understand the sector ground up. So take a sector development approach and try to sort of taking a very humble approach, try and understand this sector before we, come in with any sorts of a assumption or a prescription. So that this technical assistance that the CD mentioned is a very humble attempt in trying to understand this ecosystem. Every ecosystem is different. There are standard modalities and standard pillars to analyze these sectors, but we want to see what is different in this particular ecosystem, because there are things which there are success stories, case studies where good things have happened, but it lacks aggregation and it lacks scale. Things have not scaled up. So we thought, as an important development partner, together with our colleagues from other multilaterals and financing institutions, look at this sector and see where we can add value. So what this DA is going to do is going to come up with a country diagnostic study, which is going to be the first of its kind. We're hoping to bring it out in Q1 sometime, maybe end of February. And then the next logical step is to have this framework on policy, see which policies are missing. And if there are new policies to be developed and adopted. And more importantly, try and see if the policy framework can be made a bit sustainable. Because we all know there was a digital Pakistan policy back in 2018, and that's where it has remained for all this time. I won't say catching dust because Ali Asghar is not going to be happy when I say this, but it has got some dust over a period of time. So maybe we need to dust it up and look at it, where it can be improved. So, and the third one, of course, is that, whenever we go and talk to state bank or tax authorities, I'm an ex-FBR person and so is Aftab. So we will understand that, we have tried to help the sector. We have had 0 ratings and we have reduced taxations. We've had some capital control allowances also. But what I think the sector really complains, and we have the freelancers representation also, they will tell you that there is a significant compliance burden also, which the sectors face and which is not monetized or it doesn't factor anywhere. So that's another thing. So we'll try and have some focused capacity buildings. Capacity buildings is a much maligned phrase, but what we want to have people like Aftab in the room who have successfully sort of steered and created this Pakistan single window company. So learn from people like him and see if we can somehow go to a regulation which is not just effective, but also is progressive and can support the sector to grow, because the numbers are very stark. We are a 2.6 billion exporting economy in terms of IT-enabled services, while our neighbors are approaching 200 billion. So, I mean, and Saudi oil exports, if you want to check, I think the last time I checked in 2021, they were 113, but I think 2022, they have gone up to 175 billion. So still lower than software exports of India. So, yeah. So that's, so what we will have this discussion around the room, and we are, as I said, different sector representation. So every sector has its issues. Telecom would have its issues. Software will have its issues. But we want to have a zoomed out view on this. How can together we make this sector sort of make some progress? How can we make it move? So what is the oddity or what is the expected in the ecosystem that we can somehow telecom se pata hoga there was this CPP in I think 98 or 99 which sort of developed and sort of opened this sector, calling party pays. So that was the magic bullet for telecom. So is there a magic bullet for digital? Can we somehow and this is what we'll try and find out in addition to the pillar. So I'll again, it's an honor for me to have you at this table and be part of this and trying to moderate. I will not be moderating anything, to be honest. So we'll take 5 minutes around the table and have your view on this. I just wanted to give you this background. And after this, we'll have some policy recommendations and we'll go around the table again, 3 minutes each. And I would not really stop anyone because it's a small group. So if there is something to be said, it should be said. And then there will be an open discussion at the end of it. And Dr. Bakar and his team is here to take notes of whatever is being said. And we hopefully will also engage after this roundtable. That won't be the end of it. So, Dr. Saab, how would you want me to do this? Just go around the table. So maybe I think I'll go clockwise. And I'll request Madam Jahanara, who's I think she's got the most experience in the room and most insightful views, I suppose. So over to you, Madam. We'll start with you. Thank you for being here again. Thank you.
You hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. No, I'm not the most experienced person in the room. I remember the first time Parvez and I met in Malaysia at an event. I think many of the people in this room are equally part of the digital economy in Pakistan and have worked very hard to get here. So, but thank you for showing that respect. I think I would like to, as you said, zoom out and not just talk about the IT industry, although I worked, with Pasha for over 20 years, but I think we need to look at Pakistan in a zoomed out digital. So it's not just the IT industry that uses digital. We have a large population and we need to see how we can involve all of them in using digital to their advantage and to the advantage of Pakistan. So the first thing that I want to focus on is, you said policies. Yes, policies are important. And I think we have some of them already. The implementation of those policies are more important. And I think that doesn't happen. There are problems with some of the policies that we have, but those can be fixed. There's been a lot of discussion led by the ministry and the Pakistan Software Export Board, Pasha, also including the Freelancers Association, about what is needed by each and every part of the industry. But I think, whether it's the Data Protection Act, whether it's cyber security legislation, whether it's the cybercrime bill, none of it actually is, it is only used to punish rather than to implement. And that is, that's not what legislation and policy is for. So I feel that that's important. The second part of policy is it needs to be consistent. And it isn't. We implement a policy, we change it, we decide this is not working, and we go into something else. So policy needs to be consistent. And also we don't need banning, blocking, taking down of social media platforms, all of that, because it doesn't lend confidence to either people who want to work with us or even to people within Pakistan, and certainly doesn't lend confidence to investors who want to invest here. So I think at the policy level, those are the areas that I feel are important. I think we know what policies are needed, some of which we already have. All we need to do is focus on them, and we need to keep them consistent. And that's where the government needs to play a role. And whichever government is in power, the policies should not change. They should be consistent so that we know what we are looking at, and the entire digital sector knows what they can bank on, right? Secondly, I think for me, inclusion is a very important part. And when I say inclusion, I'm not talking just about women, although gender is certainly a very important part. I'm talking about inclusion of people from different parts of Pakistan, not just the major cities, but towns, villages. Everybody is to some extent using digital. We need to enhance that and increase the usage through digital literacy, through education, through making sure that they can become more efficient and productive. So that kind of inclusion is what I believe we need if we are going to become a digital transformational country, right? Otherwise, it's just a handful of us who are always using technology, who have access to it, who benefit from it. We need to make sure the larger population also has access to it. Thirdly, I think localization is important, because English should not be the only language of communication or data transfer. It needs to be in languages that our people understand and that is natural to them. And now that we have so much voice and video being used, we can use that because we have a large population that is uneducated. So if we are going to include all of them, we need to make sure that we use all forms of digitization to include them. Capacity building of women is something that I am particularly focused on. I think the country cannot grow if 50% of your population is kept at a certain level. And there is no reason for that. Women in this country are smart, they're efficient, they're educated, and many of them can do much more than what they are being limited to. So my idea is there need to be more women business leaders, more women on boards of companies, because it's only then that the decisions they take will affect a larger number of women in the country. And also young girls will look at these role models and think, yes, I can get there as well. Otherwise they see, even look at our group. I know SDPI has tried very hard to bring a good group together, but this is it. This is the fact. There aren't enough women who have a voice in the digital space. So we need to improve that. We can't just talk about it. We need to make sure that we take action to change that. Also, digitization of government. We aren't there yet. There are certain things that have happened, and Nadra, I think, is tops as far as that is concerned. And then there are other parts of government that are digitized, but not all parts of government are digitized, and they need to be connected as well. So I know Usman has played a good role, as has Parvez, but I think it needs focus so that the people do not feel threatened. People in government don't feel threatened that if we digitize, the transparency is going to be something that we should be scared of. This is something that should happen. And only then can we actually look at transformation of the country into a digital space. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. We're just going to continue to talk about it. I've just come from the launch of the research that has been done to increase exports in IT. And, as I listened to the consultant talking about what needs to be done in Pakistan to improve and increase exports, it was what many of us have been talking about for the last 20 years. We all know what needs to be done. We have to do it. If we don't do it, then 10 years, 20 years from now, we will still be talking about it. So I think action is what is needed. We all know what is required. So whereas this is a good move, we have research, but I would expect that whatever SDPI does, and Asian Development Bank is also known for it, the action plan is going to be important and the implementation is going to be important if we are going to see some change. I think I'll stop here because there are a lot of people in the room who have a lot to contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. All very, very key points, especially on women empowerment. I think we can have a discussion on this later. So I'll go to Ibrahim Amin Saab, sorry, on the freelancers perspective.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So I tend to agree what Madam Jahara has said. So she has almost said everything what was needed. So first of all, the basic pain point on freelancing community. So we are till today, we are still we are talking about assumptions. We don't know the actual figure. So I think we had requested Asian Development Bank, and Asian Development Bank has started or is starting a survey of the freelancing community in Pakistan. So we still don't know how many freelancers are there, we didn't quantify them on skill set, on gender, on their qualifications, on their IT skills. And we still are assuming how many dollars they are bringing to Pakistan. So first of all, the survey of freelancing community in Pakistan is needed. Second, since the problems, there are so many problems, but we have achieved and we have resolved many problems of the freelancing community. We have started off in 2018, and we have solved many problems for the freelancing community. But still there are many problems which we need to achieve, and we have been talking about the problems since last 5-6 years. I tend to agree with Madam Jahara that the action plan, how to resolve it. So till today, what I have been attending the meetings and I am seeing since last 6-7 years that only Karachi, Lahore and Islamabad freelancers communities are being called. So we just visited Thatha last 15 days before. It's just a half-hour drive, 1 hour drive. Just half-hour drive from Karachi. And to my surprise, there is no university there. There is no IT college there. There is no skill set there. And the locals told me that all the young boys and girls, boys especially, are now addicted. Nobody, no hand holding, nothing there to hold them. So the focus, like Madam Jahara said, that the focus all is in Karachi, Lahore and Islamabad. And rest of the Pakistan doesn't have internet, doesn't have electricity. doesn't have any guidance. So we have talked about this hundreds and hundreds of times in hundreds and hundreds of meetings. What's the resolution? How to resolve it? Why not join hands together? Why not synergize? Sorry. Why not take responsibility? Why not divide Pakistan into sectors and own the sector? Let's take a responsibility of a sector. Give us a sector. Let's work on the sector. Let's distribute the sectors together.
Just to add, this is like a geography sector.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please. So let us do something. Let us take baby steps and achieve something. So first of all, to quantify how many freelancing communities there. So the problems, we all know about the problems. How to resolve the problem, that's most important. And going outside Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad, that also is Pakistan. So that's all what I want to say. Thank you.
Since there is a minute or so, आपके उसमें 5 minutes में, तो may I ask you, do you think freelancers is all mapped out, or अभी इसमें there is, there are people who कितना उसका substance, कितना portion होगा? How much is it that's not mapped by your association?
Now, so we were registered in 2021.
It's an estimate, I guess.
It's been 2 years now.
Yeah.
So we have 50,000 members now.
So this could be 70, 80 or more.
So
we are number
when
4
we started off, I was listening that there are 3 million freelancers. We are the fourth largest community in the world.
We are number 4 in the world.
And then we tend to found out that there are 1 million freelancers. So still the figure is very vague. So we totally got 200,000 members, and we have 50,000 active members. So only we got registrations from Gilgit-Baltistan, 25,000 members from Gilgit-Baltistan only. So a survey is needed. So what Tufail, our CEO, is in contact with you, had been in contact with you. Yeah.
To be part of this.
So thank you. The main thing which is needed is to quantify. If you want to quantify a segment, the survey is needed. Instead of just assuming and saying everything that Pakistan is on the 4th or 3rd and then 2nd. So,
but people don't want to be mapped. That's also another thing, and we'll come to this later. And also, I wanted to ask you if there is a, if my guess is that the State Bank would only know when the money comes into the country. So there is this, there's chat that there is a substantive part of the forex it doesn't come to Pakistan. So how much that could be? I mean, the total earnings, somehow there has to be a way of matching the number of freelancers to the income, to the revenue that should come to Pakistan. So it's maybe that's another discussion.
So
but
yes,
there is something.
So since actually we are doing financial credit checking and financial due diligence of all the lenders in Pakistan as a business in all over Pakistan. So we are working with all financial institutions in Pakistan since 25 years. So we do external verifications also.
Okay.
So by doing external verifications, we are doing individual verifications in all parts outside, in each and every part of Pakistan, in agriculture also. So we have a particular view on freelancing community. So whoever applies for a loan, whoever applies for a credit card, whoever applies for a loan or any bank account in Pakistan. So we are partners with Pioneer also, and Jazz and Faisal Bank and Habib Bank. So the average income basically a freelancer has is $500 to $1,000 average. And what we think is there are 200,000 to 500,000 freelancers in Pakistan. In the past 5-6 years journey, this is what we think is. So the actual survey is going to be needed. And of course, when we go to the route travel with you and with all the companies, the survey companies, we will have an idea, a basic idea that how many freelancers are there. We can plan so many things to quantify.
Yeah, thank you. This is the first of its kind of an initiative to actually map out this sector, and this sector is very resistant being mapped out. And partly the reason is me and Aftab. So the revenue authorities. So I think that's another discussion. I think relates to the compliance burden that everybody wants to pay taxes in this country, but nobody wants to meet the taxpayers, or engage with them. That's another discussion. So I'll go to Dr. Nazim Latif. Dr. Saab, as I said, has a deep experience in trade and commerce. He was rather modest in introducing himself. He's been working with ITC on trade for a while now, and spent his career in Ministry of Commerce, also abroad as a trade representative. So, Dr. Saab, I think, first of all, let's talk trade ki to aapse baat second hoegi. Pehle, what you are a wise person. So what's the issue? Hamare saath jo hai na, what's the, if you wanted to talk about, as Jahan Rara said, that's a problem is implementation of policies, and we have enough policies. Everybody would agree. So what's your view on this? Okay. And then you can talk about trade. You have a bigger picture on trade, but also, the digital trade, if we wanted to support this regionally. Regionally, Pakistan, for example, in the Central Asia region, Pakistan is leading the figure. The next best is Kazakhstan, with about $400 million of exports on this. So we look at it as a potential area where Pakistan can collaborate. So two things on the policy side, and secondly, on the trade side, if you think there is potential in digital trade and if we can improve this.
Okay. Well, I'm happy that Madam Jahara raised these two issues about talk of digitalization of other industries rather than only talking about the IT industry. I'll do it later, but then first, she also mentioned so first about the policy implementation issues. Why our policies are not implemented in Pakistan? What are those issues? Now, interesting story is that I did an exercise recently about the policy implementation failures of the Ministry of Commerce. We've been issuing 3 years and 5 years strategic policy frameworks since 2009. If you open, they're all available on internet. If you open the first page, will start, our previous policy failed. The implementation of previous policy failed because of the following reasons. And one of those reasons they mention is that we did not have an effective, robust implementation mechanism. We are proposing a mechanism now. Next is 2012. It again starts with this line, 2015, 2018, even this policy starts with this line, that all our previous policy failed because of lack of implementation. These are the reasons we are now proposing a robust mechanism, but that mechanism is still not in place. But this is one area that when we devise a policy, we do not think about a robust or effective implementation mechanism. But then why our policy failed, the other reasons are that perhaps when we devise a policy, we do not have a kind of rational approach. When we think that we'll be able to achieve $100 billion of exports in 3 years, let's make this figure. One of our policies said that we will develop a water channels for transports in Pakistan. It is cost effective. There's no water in the channels. So how are we going to establish water channels? So sometimes the policy formulation during the policy formulation, we get carried away. The other issue is I was going through, sir, your policy, and I'll not, it's not your policy review, but I'll just talk about a little bit about your policy as well. Now, what happens is that Pakistan's governance system is slightly different. The other country, I think, is Nigeria, where we have devolution and center. And what happens over there is that center has their own rules and laws and regulations, and the county governments, like we have provincial governments. Now, the policies are formulated at the center, but most of the implementation is made in the provinces, and there is a disconnect. And sometimes there is a policy conflict and gaps as well. For instance, while devising your policy in the digital Pakistan policy, I mean, they said that, we will offer sales tax relaxation to the companies based in just Islamabad, because they don't have jurisdiction outside Islamabad. These provinces will say, no, our revenue will fall down. There is the policy conflict between center and the provinces, and bulk of the things are going on in the provinces. So there is and also sometimes there is a policy conflict and policy gap amongst different federal government entities as well. So there are so many reasons why our policies are not properly implemented. As you very rightly said, they are getting dust most of the times. I told you about my policy as well, that for 20 years we've been thinking about how to get a mechanism to have a proper implementation of policy. But perhaps either the governance structure in Pakistan is such, because or perhaps the formulation process is not inclusive. We don't involve provinces, we don't involve the whole stakeholders, and we don't consider about their recommendations while formulating the policy. And sir, another thing which I noticed in your policy was that most of the areas, as sir, now may I now shift to a little bit of this ecosystem, the global ecosystem. If even if the challenges that you said, you go to every Google, the challenges faced by ecosystem, and especially in the global south, there are 4 or 5 issues: the regulations, policy and regulatory environment, access to finance, there is skills, the issues of skills, and these are the same issues which are industry or companies face over here. But when I skimmed through your policy, and you have actually recommendations to address these issues, especially in your human resource section, which is section 3.8. But your e-agriculture section, when I looked at the e-agriculture sector, I mean, it says about formulation of, say, strengthening of agriculture extension system, which have been going on since ages in Africa and in every country, which means that you enhance the productivity. But you never talked about the agriculture marketing, which is the real issue in Pakistan. Sir, there are different studies that the marketing, agriculture produce marketing in Pakistan is going on through, galla or sabji mandis. And there are so many problems in that area that most of the profit goes to the middlemen. And there are some studies in Pakistan which say that probably producer get only maybe less than 50% of the value of the produce that it takes to that. So there's no mention, but different countries, even in our neighbor, I mean, they have e-NAMs all over India. I mean, there is now digital or electronic agriculture produce market. We did not, maybe, although some private companies in Pakistan are doing this, like Pipo and the Taza and things like that, but at a national level, we are not considering about this. So my request would be that these kind of things, which are cross-cutting issues all over the world, and they should be included in our policies as well. I think these are the areas, but I'm not an IT expert. IT people, they know very well that what is the ecosystem and what are the issues. They are almost.
What I really wanted to ask you is that, there's when you were talking about digital trade, of course, happens through internet, through new business. You mentioned e-market. So traditional trade suffers from its own issues. There are geographic issues. It's encumbered by political issues. So regional cooperation can be inhibited by, or regional trade can be inhibited by this. But digital trade, I mean, we have this open area in cyberspace, which is not constrained. So, I'll just quickly have your yes or no, whether there is, room to improve on this, whether we can establish some trade relations with regional countries through the cyberspace internet, whether that's possible.
I think yes, the world is doing this, and that famous Google study shares that we have a potential of around 60 billion US dollars, the transformation. The digital trade with the regional country, yes, this is an issue. This is possible. And I think our experts would say that Pakistan is inching towards that as well. We have Alibaba, probably we were listening that Alibaba is coming over here, and other, and some portals for Amazon are being opened. I mean, this is a good thing. But today, I came here actually to give a message that whenever we think about IT, we think about IT exports. You see, exports, I came here to deliver a message that instead of talking about exports, I'll talk about the local domestic commerce market, because export is a privileged kind of sector always. I mean, it gets the policy facilities as well, the taxation, but the local, unless you strengthen your local companies or local SMEs or micro SMEs, unless you digitize them and bring about change in their operational, bring in some operational efficiency in these companies, and unless you strengthen your domestic commerce, you won't be able to achieve your exports as well. It's a long discussion.
Point well taken. I think I'll just move on. I think it's a very good points on this e-market, which is you mentioned is operational in India also. So what I'll do is I'll just use my discretion as a moderator and break the chain and maybe go to the right side of the table, and we have Akil Saab from Airtel. So this is a success story, of a company which has started its operations right before our eyes and has done very well. And I know Wahad Saab, and he's a veteran of the industry. He talks about so many issues that the industry, but taking nothing away from Airtel, it has been a success story, starting from is a small country right under the federal government. You've not been encumbered by what the federal government can do to businesses, as we heard on the left. So what's your experience in sort of managing this policy environment, which some people would say is a bit heavy and bears down on businesses, but you have negotiated the path very well. So we want to hear your perspective on this, and also some lessons learned from your experience that we can take away. Thank you.
Actually, thank you very much. First of all, inviting on this very important discussion. Somebody was saying there a lot of policy, and there are enough policy. Yes, there is a problem that there are some policies that do not exist still, which is required by the industry. But the actual problem is implementation of those policies. Policies are there, but these policies, concerned people, or you can say the other stakeholders, they are not following in latter spirit of those policies. For example, with the years of struggle and efforts, Ministry of IT, PTA industry, they are being able to have right-of-way policy. Right-of-way is the most, you can say, problematic area in digital access footprint in the country. We are talking about the digital ecosystem and empowering 50% of the population, women population, or what you said, Galla Mandi, access to the Galla Mandi, or something like that. There are a lot of things, but in the absence of good quality access digital network, we can't able to have a good digital ecosystem. So there are a lot of good things happen in the last 15, 20 years. We started services in 2006 and start fiberization in 2004. So a lot of good things. We, as an industry, we as a PTA and ministry, all make all of efforts, and a lot of good things happen. But there are still a lot to do. You were talking about the AI
or maybe IoT or something like that. For that, we need a good infrastructure, good digital infrastructure. There are in the country, there are a lot of no-go areas where we can't put our fiber. There are around 50 or 60,000 telecom towers, and out of those, only 66,000 are fiberized. And out of those 6,000, many are on the aerial fiber, so which is not reliable fiber. So where is the issue? Issue is that either some even government departments, some municipal authorities, some private colonies, they don't allow to the fiber. Either they don't allow, or they put so heavy cost for the right of way, which is even more than the infrastructure cost, which make the business not feasible. So that is the big hurdle. And even the right-of-way policy is very much clear. As I said, that we need to implement those policy in its true literal spirit. The departments, the government departments, which are responsible to handle the disputes or such issues where societies don't permit the operators to go to resolve the dispute, but we also see delays on that end. So first of all, we need to have the policy we have. We need to have good implementation of those policies. If you ask me today that do we have a good quality digital infrastructure in Pakistan, I would say no. And the major reason for that is the right-of-way policies. The other issues regarding that is heavy taxes, regulatory duties. You know, on the optical fiber, is 20%. 20% is regulatory duty. We are talking about the promoting the digitization, and on the other hand, we are putting 20% regulatory duty on the key component of the digital fiberization. So if we have if we have to pay 20% regulatory on the fiber, how would offer a good quality service or good affordable service to the end consumer? We are talking about the freelancing. For freelancing, we need a good quality internet services, internet pipe. Internet is now a commodity. We have to build other services, other things on that. But in the absence of good internet or in the absence of affordable internet, that is not possible. So again, there is another problematic area, which is the availability of human resource. Availability of good human resource. Around 25 or 30,000 engineering and IT graduates are passing every year. But out of those 25 or 25,000 or 30,000, how many are the competent to serve in the industry? There is no good check and balances on the universities. That needs a good, first of all, that need a good connection between academia and industry. And then Pakistan Engineering Council, which is responsible for the technical education, and HEC, they should play their role on improvement of quality education. You know, if we are talking about AI and other things, which is the need of today, if we don't take care of the attributes which is important to get on AI bus or IoT bus, or that thing, we have no survival after few years. Most of our labor, which is our labor which is working in Middle East or abroad, they will be back by after say 5-10 years. Then again,
equipment installed to be installed at the customer end for internet services, CPE, that is very costly. It should also be taken care of. That we could do some government should give some incentive for local manufacturing, so that it will also generate employment and it cost effective manufacturing of CP. Then we have two funds, USF and R&D fund. Industry contributes 2% of their revenues to those funds. Those funds are not being used for the purpose they are meant as per the Telecom Act. Initially, these funds are managed by the Universal Service Fund or R&D fund, but now the amount contributed by the industry, that goes into the consolidated fund. And right now, over 100 billion rupees is available on those funds. And when industry says that wants that fund, those funds are not available for them. So these funds should be made available for the industry and should be used for the purpose they are built. So these are few things. The first, we need to have a good digital infrastructure, and our key focus for that should be for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Akil sir. Very, very valid points on infrastructure. We'll hear on infrastructure from the Telecom Authority and also maybe another view from Pravesa. But I also wanted to know, what has been the maybe some learning that we can take away from Neatel success. But I'll come back to you on this in a bit. So we have heard some issues from the industry. So I would like to go to the jazzy side of the industry now, which is sort of on the table, represented by Usman Nasir Saab and Imran Saab, if he is still online. So I'll just go to Imran first, and then Usman Saab to you, and hear from you. What do you think on how we can take this forward? Because this is not a choice anymore, as the CD said. This is because you are basically, if you're not acting on the digital front, basically there is a debt that you are accumulating month on month, and it's not even month on month now. Maybe it's a week on week now, week on week. So Imran Saab, if you're still online, could you come in? Okay, so we'll bring him back in a bit. But Usman Saab, over to you. So you have the very on ground, getting your hands dirty type of an experience. You sort of done some re-engineering at Pakistan Software Export Board also. So we're very keen to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I think when we look at the entire problem, there are three areas to look into. A, the technology implementation within Pakistan, and that includes both the government sector and the private sector. B is the education of technology, and that again goes with both the private sector and the public sector. And the third element is the IT export. Now, I'll start with the IT export because the other two are social problems. IT export is a technical problem. And every time I listen to some government member would come on board and just say, we'll take IT export to $20 billion in 3 years. No issues. And I start laughing at that very instance, and I realize the person has no idea what they're talking about. It's a mathematical problem. So I'll start with that. To increase the IT exports of the country, and before I get on there, why IT export? It has the potential of increasing the fastest. So what we have seen during between 2020 and 2022, when I was at PSEB, we nearly doubled our IT export in two years compared to the entire past 25 years. So there was an 81% growth in the IT exports of the country. So, and we didn't do anything. So if I give you, I mean, there was no special thing that happened from FBR or State Bank or any special thing that we have done. We just started collecting all that data and started creating that, that perspective of what needs to be done. Second element why IT exports important is because if you look at your entire services trade balance, your entire services trade balance is in deficit. Every single bit of your services trade balance is in deficit, barring one, technology. So IT is in trade surplus, and IT is in trade surplus by whopping 84%. Now, the other thing that we often don't realize is there's one number called IT exports and the other number is called IT export remittances. And when we quote the 2 billion number is the IT export remittances. The IT exports are somewhere around $6 to $7 billion. So the effort that the country is generating or the companies of the country is generating is creating $7 billion of worth of revenue, out of which $2.6 billion comes to Pakistan. And you cannot do anything about it. No matter what government official comes and tell you, we will take the IT companies to task because they are not bringing their revenue to the country, do whatever you may, you will not succeed. And why it is such, there are two villains in this country, and I'm sorry, Nasser and Aftab. Thank you very much. So one is the State Bank of Pakistan. So State Bank of Pakistan for the past 40-45 years is the key element behind Pakistan's failures. And I give you an example. Let's play a game, Jahan, Ara and I. So Jahan, let's play a game. So Jahan, I am the new relationship manager of the bank that has opened a branch near your area. So, hello ma'am, Assalamu alaikum. I am the new relationship manager of ABC Bank and we have opened our branch in your area. Thank you very much. So now in our bank, ma'am, you can credit as much money as you want to. You can only debit more than 10% or 11%. Would you be able to open an account in our bank? So gentlemen, this is what Pakistan has been created by a state bank. Pakistan is that entity which is saying we have 230 million people and this and that and so much. And yet there's no foreign direct investment coming into the country. Because, and I work with wealth managers across the world. And the one thing that they tell me, Usman, we don't care about loss. I mean, we do care about loss, but we have loss calculated. When we go into a business, we have the risk analysis done. We present to our board. We say there's an 18% chance that we'll make this much loss. There's a 15% chance that we'll make this much loss, so on and so forth. Everything is approved. And if we make a loss, we make a loss. That's fine. They said what is criminal in our industry is to have your money stuck in any deal, in any country. You give me 200% yield, but you tell me that I cannot use this money, that's useless to me. So the first thing that what Pakistan did very wrong, and it was like, no, we don't have foreign exchange. Okay, so what should we do? Okay, the first tool of controlling foreign exchange is not to let foreign exchange go out. Well, guess what? This is the only effective tool of ensuring that there are no foreign exchange come in the country in the first place. So for that, now I come to the other topic. So if a sector is 86% trade surplus, we have to start opening up foreign exchange or foreign exchange policy for that particular sector. Then we go to the next sector, which is 78% trade surplus. Then we go to the next sector, which is 72% trade surplus, unless we have completely opened our foreign exchange policy. And unless you do that, there's no money coming into your country. Now, the third element is that IT industry is the only industry, is the only hope. because A, it is fastest growing, B, has the most trade surplus, C, this is the industry. So as per SECP's number, there's somewhere around 26,000 IT companies in the country. The second biggest employer, sorry, the second biggest number of businesses as per SECP are after retail in the country. And we have IT industry, everybody has gone to Quetta, I guess. There's nothing in Quetta. There are 130 IT companies in Quetta. There are 127 IT companies in Gilgit. There are more than 140 IT companies in Hyderabad. There's nothing else in Hyderabad. Very large companies, I tell you what. So this is what so the three things that we realize: fastest growing, most trade surplus, it's everywhere. Now what we need to do actually, when we say we go to IMFs and whatnot and all these Paris clubs and whatnot, and we beg for those $1 billion, what is the cost that we are paying for it? The cost that we are paying for it today, if I discount the country risk cost, and if I only consider whatever the retail rates are available in the foreign markets, it's around 6.8%, 7.5%. So if you are borrowing $1 billion, already you are paying $78 million in cost in year one, and that is barring all the other costs that we are not considering even. Now there are these IT exporters, who are bringing that money free of cost to you, right? And they are saying, please allow us to use our money to buy things overseas, send it overseas. I want to buy a villa in Miami. What's your concern? It's my free cash flow. I can do whatever I want to do with it. Now, if you don't allow them, they will keep that money outside and you can't do anything about it. So the second thing, the difference between India and Pakistan that we talk about is 200 billion versus $2 billion. It is not the IT industry that is responsible. What is responsible is the captive IT sector of the country, that is operating in India and Pakistan. What is the captive IT sector? The captive IT sector is a company which performs IT jobs for a non-IT company overseas. So Wells Fargo is a bank. They have 55,000 people working in India in IT and HR, providing all these services, IT and HR services as cost, 55,000. JP Morgan Chase has 33,000 people working in India in IT and HR and administration services, providing services to JP Morgan and Chase. Some brilliant folks at FBR decided that they were going to raid S&P because they're saying, oh, they're only bringing costs. They should be bringing their revenue to the Pakistan. Sorry? I hope they're not. I hope they're not. So the message that we are giving is that Pakistan is not open for business. You come and do business in Pakistan, you say, oh, we are very cheap and cost effective and everything and this and that, and then you go and raid an office. So please don't do that. The last element that I want to talk about is
briefly, because I want to go to online also.
Okay. Is the vertical versus horizontal regulation in the country. So you have, the moment you open up a business in this country, you have 21 idaras who will come after you, 21 organizations who will come after you, one after another. And they are all linked to each other. I know how it works. I know how the chemistry works in the back end. So you open and some excise guy will come in, and then some EOBI person would come in, and then some other person would come in, and they will ask, all the funny stuff. I think what this country requires is, for every sector, instead of having 18, 20 horizontal regulators which cut through every business, you should have a single vertical regulator for each industry and give them the complete onus of their performance. If Usman Saab is responsible for the IT sector, Usman Saab is appointed for 2 years. After 2 years, Usman Saab is answerable. What has happened to the margins, to the revenues, to the number of jobs created, to the number of businesses inducted in the country? But if you have 18 different idaras who decide to raid a business, to close down that business, to do all those other funny stuff, that's what we need to stop doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Smansab. That was, I think, some of the points you made. I knew the IT industry is net positive, but I think that the figures are amazing. And thank you for giving us the detail. I noticed Jordanka was taking notes very keenly. So I hope there are some good points that go into the study that we are about to do. I'll just request Ignite, which is represented by Bilal Abbasi, and he's got some great things to share on our startup ecosystem, and maybe some of the things that Ignite is able to. But yeah. So this is a high-level discussion. For example, on financing side, what have you been able to do? And there is a comment that we probably need to use the R&D fund and the USF a bit better. So maybe you can talk about that, taking your 5 minutes. So I'll come back to you at the end of it if there is something that we need to elaborate on. So over to Bilal, and then I'll just briefly ask Jordanka if she has a question or a query to the points made thus far. So quickly we can have just a quick question or two on this, and then we go to the rest of the participants. Thank you, Bilal.
Thank you very much, Nasir. So all the participants, they have raised some very amazing points. We talked about policy, we talked about regulations, we also talked about that whether policies should be state-centric or people-centric. We talked about the implementation mechanisms. And then there is a part that, support for the startup ecosystem should be there or not, and then the capacity building things. And Usman Saab, of course, talked about the IT export specifically. When we talk about the digital transformation, I agree to one of the participants. They mentioned that it's not only the IT export. There are a lot of things. Telecom services, again, come under the digital transformation. After 3G, 4G, we have seen a massive digital transformation within the country, but then there are a lot of other things that needs to be done. So when we talk about the policy side first, you must have seen that there are certain policies available, but then there are a lot of policies that needs to be prepared. So for example, data is the basic or the smallest unit we have, and we don't have any policy related to data governance, that how the data should be managed, how it should be classified, how it shared between nations. And then you actually, if once we have this policy, only then you can have the proper cybersecurity policy or the Electronic Crime Act or any other policies. So even the AI policies based on the data governance as well. But then comes the regulation. So it's like acts and then the regulations. So if you look at the regulations, the funny thing is, in terms of startup, I can tell you that FBR has its own definition of startups. When you go to SECP, they have their own definition of startups, and these two definitions are conflicting. If you go to any other organization, State Bank, they have different limits. They have the number of years against all these are different. So definition is one of the key elements that needs to be addressed. So what we did, we actually have done a small study, and then we have asked these regulators to please come up with one of a definition. In fact, we have proposed the definition that what definition is going to be supportive to the startup ecosystem in Pakistan. The second thing is, it's really important that, when you talk about digital transformation, there are a lot of projects which has been conceived, being implemented, and have not been, broadcasted properly, I would say. It's very easy to criticize government, I would say, but then there are a lot of things that has been done by the government. Now, it is an important thing that, government cannot do all the things. They have to work closely with the private sector. Now, the challenge here is we have one organization that is called as National Information Technology Board. Then we have one organization that is called as Punjab Information Technology Board. What they do is they start doing projects themselves. All the government projects goes to them, and they are actually responsible for the digital transformation. So what happens is they do one project and then they shelf it. But what if those projects are done by the private sector? They will execute those projects, and once the project or the product is mature, they will even start exporting it, and it will bring revenue to Pakistan. So we're not doing it. We're not actually helping private sector to actually grow. So I think that the government organizations, what government should do is they should get all their projects. Most of their projects should be done through the private sector. Ignite here is a good example for the government organization that we get all our projects done through the private sector. Ignite doesn't do anything itself. We are a funding organization. Somebody was saying that their funds are not used properly. I think Ignite mandate was to promote innovation, research and development, entrepreneurship, capacity building. This is the mandate of Ignite. And Ignite is actually doing some amazing project. Again, private sector is delivering them. And they are in line with the mandate given to them. Regarding the capacity building program, it is one of the important way to actually promote the digital transformation. See, we have a bulk of youth available. So what we can give them right now is training. That's the key element, and that's the need of the private sector as well. So once you start providing or start upskilling them, they'll be able to actually contribute towards the exports and also towards the digital transformation. So coming back to the part, Nasser Saab, what you have asked me for about the startup ecosystem. Regarding the startup ecosystem, we recently had engagements with few of the accelerator and few of the funds in Silicon Valley. And what I got to know, I asked them the simple question, whether you will establish a fund in Pakistan or not. And all of them said that we are not going to establish a fund in Pakistan. And I asked them the reason that why can't you do that? So most of the reason were already been explained by Mr. Usman Nasir. But one thing, look, if once the LP starts giving money to the VCs, they have a trust in certain markets. They cannot actually go and invest in all the markets. So for example, if you go to Singapore, Delaware, or DIFC, they'll only probably start giving money to those VCs which set up their funds in these areas. And that's why you see most of our startup ecosystem player establishing their whole cause in these territories. So why they don't invest in Pakistan? It's not just these regulation, it's also your judicial system. It's also about the intellectual property theft. And then, of course, the regulation which is hurting them. So what we have done is, there is a study I can share with all of you, that we have highlighted these issues, and we tried that if collectively we can work on these issues, we'll be able to bring some good investments in Pakistan, and we can thrive the startup ecosystem as well. Last important thing is, a lot in Pakistan or supporting the startup ecosystem in Pakistan, but we have not given much of exposure to this startup ecosystem, the international exposure. So we are coming up with a program, and of course, ADB and rest of the people can help us in designing that program. We want to give the exposure to the startup ecosystem, international exposure to the startup ecosystem, so that they can get in touch with international VCs or the corporations outside Pakistan as well, so that eventually we can help Pakistan in economic prosperity. So this is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Bilal. 1.5 minutes over, but the last point was well taken and noted. Some valid observations on the funding side. I think we had this discussion on the establishing, maybe looking at the possibility of having a fund of funds. So wherever that has happened, government has taken a big position on funding. So foreign VCs and would only be interested if they see where we put our money. So that's also important. So that's another discussion, but we'll just stop here. And I'll ask Jordanka if she has a question or any observation or a comment to which we can seek a clarification from the participants. Over to you, Jordanka, for that question or two or observation, anything.
Thank you so much, and it's a great pleasure to be around this hybrid round table. So thank you for bearing with that. I will not comment at this point. We are at the beginning of the journey with the digital framework and diagnostic. So I'm rather all ears than saying anything because we're about to learn about Pakistan's digital ecosystem. But maybe one question I would like to pose. A lot of you talked about your sort of spheres of expertise, the sectors that you work in. But if we are to elevate to the Pakistan as a country level, strategically, where would you like, from your vantage point and the information that you have at this point in time, where would you like Pakistan to be in 5 years from now? Sort of in a rapid fire kind of anyone, 3 things that you would like to see in 5 years from now in the digital sector, and for the digital sector to be a transformative and empowering and impactful sector for society, for business, and for country as a whole. So just rapid fire.
The next step already. So what we wanted to do, and that's an excellent way of actually going around the table, asking in a rapid fire manner 3 things that you would like to see happen, because that's something that we would like to take note of, and obviously Jordanka would like to take note of, working on our ecosystem. So what I'll really do is I'll give you a few minutes to think about it, what Jordanka has said. So we sort of harvest the right recommendations, and something doesn't get left behind. In the meantime, we'll just ask the participants who have not spoken yet. So I would like to go to them also. Arif, I would like to come to you because there is Arif, of course, represents PTA and he's been there for a while now. He's DG commercial. Besides imposing fees on the subscribers, so I would really request you to respond to the infrastructure bit that has been mentioned as a key constraint, and also 1 and 2, in terms of bringing coverage to underserved areas, and that has also been mentioned. So what's PTA actually trying to assure that we have coverage in some of those areas which the freelancers and other SMEs can utilize? You want to add something? After, that's okay.
I can do that.
Please do.
As a licensee or as a fixed line or spectrum, PTA charges in US dollars. License is not something that dependent on something we are importing. This is a local license for services. And your licensees, they generate revenue in rupees, and our local currency in Pakistani rupees. This charging license fees in US dollar when the dollar appreciates, so it put a lot of pressure on the licensee. So what is the reason for that, and why shouldn't be license fee shouldn't be in the Pak rupees? Thank you.
Arif, that's the 3rd question. So first you can go to the first one. And don't take Nayatel to task for asking this tough question.
Okay, thank you very much. After listening a lot of the shortcomings and lack of the policies from the government part, let me add a little bit about that it's not, it looks like that we are at the zero ground and we are moving forward. It's not the case. We have a lot of policies. They are being implemented and their fruits are also coming to the people of Pakistan. And you can see that how much is the infrastructure available. Of course, there is a room for improvement and for the digital transformation. There is a huge work need to be done in Pakistan. And I think before the Akil question, I would just, yes, infrastructure. You know that we have deregulation policy in 2015 and we implemented as a regulator very effectively. And today you can see that the private sector and private players are working in the telecom sector all over Pakistan, and they are providing the services to more than 90% of the population in Pakistan. Today in Pakistan, more than 90% of the population have access to the mobile signals, right? Similarly, you know that it's a previous, of course, we know that the infrastructure is prerequisite for the digital transformation. Right now, we have more than 7 undersea cables, which are providing the international connectivity to in Pakistan. And in addition to these 7 undersea cables, we have one land-based optic fiber, which is between Pakistan and China. It's with the CPAC program, we have over $1 billion investment over it, and we have established that one. And 2 more undersea cables are in the pipeline. And currently, the capacity of these international connectivity is more than 11.5 terabytes. And let me tell you that right now we are using only the 60%, 64 or 65% of the capacity of the international connectivity. So we have a huge capacity still there that is available to the private companies, private people who can use it for digital transformation in Pakistan. Similarly, fiberization is another, we are very much aware that it's for the digital transformation infrastructure. OFC available in Pakistan is a very prerequisite for digital transformation. Right now, we have 67,000 kilometer long haul optic fiber available in Pakistan, and more than 90,000 kilometers the metro optic fiber is available in Pakistan. Similarly, if you see that we have more than 54,000 cell sites all across Pakistan, which is erected by all 4 companies, cellular mobile companies. Well, only 11% or 12% of those are connected with the optic fiber out of these things. But we are well aware of these infrastructure shortcomings, and we are working on the fiberization more within the domestic market. For that purpose, we have already put the obligation on the new LDI licenses for the 15,000 kilometer optic fiber. But you know that it's a problem that we have got the bank guarantee, and then they come to us that on the one side we have to invest on the optic fiber, and on the other side for your bank guarantee we have to put the money in the banks. So we are open, and we have already consultation on it, and we may give them some concession or that is under process what we can do, but already the licenses have been issued. But I'm very confident that we will do it something for this optic fiber. Similarly, I will just to let you know the audience that right now we have more than 130 million cellular subscribers all across country, and our teledensity is more than 85%. And the broadband subscribers are more than 130 million, and cellular mobile subscribers are more than 192 million. But in September data, I'm not showing you the October or November data because annual report is coming in few weeks. So it will be there. Similarly, the data usage by different per person, for example, it has increased tremendously for last 5 or 6 years. 5 years back, per person, there was only 1 GB data usage in Pakistan. And today it's more than 8 GB per person. Well, for international connectivity, I have already told you that though two major projects, Africa 1 and Africa 2, these undersea cables are under process for the internet. Well, this is more than it's a political question, I think. But I would like to answer that already the advisory council has been made, and we are in the process. Once the government has given us the go ahead, we will hire the consultant, and within 7-8 months we will be able to issue the licenses for the 5G. So this is about the infrastructure and all these things. Now come to the question that Akhil has asked about the pegging or the licensees fees in US dollar instead of the Pak rupees. Well, there is only one fees, not all the fees in not one. I think there is a MVNO fees is in, and spectrum fees is pegged with the US dollars by the government of Pakistan, but for the net there is some bandwidth price issue in the dollars with maybe the license fees. So you know that it's not the unique in Pakistan. That is most of the countries, they are doing it in the international currency. And yes, some of those have already pegged, some at one point, and some have charged in the international currency. And same is like Pakistan. But again, this issue has been raised at the very highest level in SIFC. And we hope that it would be done something very positive. About the policies, I think we have a Ministry of IT over here.
We'll go to that.
Yeah,
so we have that
so they will,
in the pipeline.
they will explain about that.
So next, what I'll do is, while you are thinking about the rapid fire 3 recommendations, so I'll just go to our remaining participants and maybe counting. I'll start counting the minutes now. So because we'll set pressed for time. Yeah, so maybe Basi Saab, you've been thinking very deeply while people were talking about some of the issues. So where is the optimism, where you are an old hand in the industry with so much experience. So if there is optimism, what are the grounds for this? And where would you place your hope?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. And I guess because we're late speakers, we get an opportunity to speak extra time. Maybe we've been waiting so long.
Very happy to have that extra time.
I just wanted to remind
just
want to remind all of us, and especially the participants and myself, okay, today's topic, one of the words is my favorite word, and that is hope. And I think we have to look at it from that perspective as well. I mentioned earlier that entrepreneurs make the world a better place. And therefore, in my opinion, we should try to bring more entrepreneurs into government. We try to bring more entrepreneurs into the bureaucracy and make those changes. And an example of this, by the way, is not just about making money. We have this negative attitude, especially from certain sectors of society, that people who make money, they are corrupt. But actually, those people who make money are the people who pay taxes, who pay your salaries. So we should also keep that in mind. And this is a very recent example. Dr. Amjad Saqib, a very well-known entrepreneur, social entrepreneur in Pakistan, has taken charge of a government department. And that knowledge and that experience, I'm optimistic, will be actually beneficial to the organization. So those are the things that, I feel are very important. I also feel that we can't really expect too much from the government. I think Bilal Abbasi mentioned that, it's very easy to criticize the government. But in all honesty, I think they make it very easy to criticize the government as well. And that's something they should keep in mind when they are also in policy formulation. How much influence or how much insights or how much input do they get from the people who are actually going to be affected by that particular policy in terms of the stakeholders, for example. And I think Akhil Saab made a very valid point that, why is it that we do certain things And I would like to illustrate a couple of examples on this, how the government has actually done things and how they could perhaps be done better. And there's a State Bank report, by the way, Akhil sir, just to mention, that 90% of fresh IT graduates are unemployable. Now, you should really ask this question to the HEC and our faculty at the university, okay, what on earth is going on? If 90% of our, and this is a State Bank report, by the way, are unemployable, how are those people, how are their performances being measured? The VCs and the university professors. It's very interesting that if the government creates a policy, it can be used in an effective way. We have a number of PhD papers being published. You know why there are so many papers being published in Pakistan? Because the professors get their promotion and their increment based on the PhD papers that they publish. How many of those have actually developed into commercialization, monetization, IP? Zero or negligible. So this is an important element. Some of us may remember during one of our government tenures, there was a scheme known as the Yellow Taxi Scheme. Billions of taxpayers' money was spent in importing yellow taxis, which ultimately resulted in 0 jobs and 0 revenue, not only for the company, but also for the country. In comparison, if you look at what Uber has done, what Careem has done, they've not taken a single dime from the government. In fact, they've created hundreds and thousands of jobs, improved the quality of people's lives, and also resulted in tax payments to the government of Pakistan. So comparison, when the government tries to do things, they always fail. Policy is very important. Somebody talked about calling party pays in the 90s. Just to give you an example, from 1990 to 2000, in one decade, we only managed to have 247,000 mobile subscribers. In the preceding year, when CPP started, calling party pay started, we went from 300,000 to 900,000. So I mean, twice the number in 1 year than we did in the preceding 10 years. So yes, there's a policy element, but those policy elements have to be done based on some sort of an input and some feedback. And also, as a nation, we have a cultural issue. We don't like change, but we are willing to make changes if we have to. And that COVID, for example, has taught us how people did go online. I would like to share one example with you that demonstrates this. We talk about digital financial services. I can share with you from the telecom sector, one of the largest telecom operators, their own employees were not using digital financial services, which are being offered by the same company. Interestingly, they did a policy change. They said from tomorrow, all of your medical reimbursement, all of your expenses will be not reimbursed to you in the form of cash or check. They'll be reimbursed to you in the form of your credit to your wallet. Guess what happened? People made the change. So in short, what I'm basically trying to say is that the government is also a facilitator and a supporter, and the government should try to get out of the way. Government is also one of the biggest buyers as well. And I would also encourage ourselves that if we think about how we can get the government to buy local product. IT के हवाले से हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो अगर हुकूमत पाकिस्तान जो है, तो सिर्फ 5% अपनी procurement करे, mandatory करे, it has to be made in Pakistan or based in Pakistan. What will happen is we will start to develop local capacity. And the next year we move from 5% to 10% and then to 20%. Eventually, over a 5-year period, 50% of the government procurement, which is one of the largest procurers of technology, would be localized. That would help us to build capacity. And I believe there is a hope and there is a future. We just need more entrepreneurs to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Basi Saab. I think very succinct and very, very, very pointed comments. But I like the optimism in your voice as well, in addition to the comments that you've made. So I appreciate that. Generally, we have this discussion where we have problems put on the table, which is fair, but also we need some optimism in the room. So what I'll now do is I've taken a lot of liberty with the two gentlemen in the room who are on my right and extreme left. So because he's from my organization, so over to the single window. I would call him an icon because he's done a lot of hard work and he's taken his work forward from the people who created this, but he was also in the team which created this project. So hats off to the team, and I'm very proud to introduce Aftab for the work he has done and the excellent gentleman that he is for his his take on the session and the objective of why we are here. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your very kind words. It's truly humbling to be part of this event because there are a lot of gurus around, and I must admit that I have zero knowledge about IT. I don't have an IT background. By training, I am a customs officer, or used to be a customs officer. I quit service in 2021 to take over as the CEO of the Pakistan Single Window, and have been associated with this project since 2017. We think that Pakistan Single Window is a truly transformative initiative that has come out of the public sector. Usually we deliver sessions on single window success, which I'm not going to do now. I just have 3 thoughts to offer, and I'm going to take advantage of my position as being the team lead for a system that is being led by the federal government, which is the Pakistan Single Window system, integrating 77 government agencies, regulating cross-border trade, other than a number of private sector providers. And also as the CEO of the Pakistan Single Window Company, which is a state-owned enterprise, but works in a very corporate way. So just as an aside, our motto in Single Window is to do everything that the government doesn't do and avoid everything that the government does. So, and that puts me in a very unique position because I am part of the government, but at the same time, I'm trying to take lessons from the private sector. So most of the practices that we have in the company are from the private sector. And therefore, that also gives me some perspective on how the government thinks when we are talking about digital transformation. So like I said, I have just 3 thoughts. Number one, and I think that would echo most of the ideas that have already been expressed by the participants here. I particularly noted what Jahan Ara was saying about digitization of government services. I've also taken copious notes that I'm going to use in my work, when I go back. So thought number one is that people have to be at the center of the digital transformation initiative. You just can't imagine to have a strategy which doesn't include people as the core of your strategy. And when we talk about that from a government perspective, it has several different dimensions. It means that you need to give the right kind of training, the right kind of skill building, and the right kind of opportunities for people to take advantage of the digital transformation journey, but also protect them from any potential harm. It also means that you have to cover the digital divide. You may have to make sure that marginalized communities, women, or other people who are living in remote areas probably don't have access to internet, are not excluded, and are protected in some way. On a more operational level, and this I see every day in my work, is that when you build systems, they have to be user-driven, not just user-centric. User-centric would probably mean that you keep the requirements of the user, you think about those requirements, and you build a system around that. But user-driven would be going beyond that, and letting the people and the actual users participate in the design of that system. So that's number one. Number two is that the government, of course, has to invest in digital infrastructure. And we have heard about how the industry is actually facing those challenges in hardcore, tangible digital infrastructure. But I think somebody from Ignite made that point, and I think that is also equally important. You need to have governance frameworks on how you're going to manage data, how you're going to manage IT. Unfortunately, that is not realized very well, at least on the government side. And my take on that is because digitization is usually taken as a buzzword, as a very technical concept that has to be introduced. It has never been taken as a core transformative element of your policy. So digitization is not really embedded in government policies. It's the other way around. Policies are formulated, and then some service provider would be asked to create a system on that. And that brings me to my third thought, that it's equally important for the government not to enable the IT environment, make sure that the capital markets are fostered enough so that startups and new businesses have access to capital to take advantage of those technologies. But it's also important that the government itself adopts technology to improve governance and service delivery. But what happens in most of these cases is that the government uses IT as a substitute for bad policies. And I, from a single window perspective, can tell you I've been working with so many departments. Alhamdulillah, we have integrated 15 departments so far. IT is just not a substitute for bad policies. You really need to reconsider the policies that you are implementing, whether it's in a niche market like ours, which is cross-border trade, or it goes for a broader user base. And Why that happens is because most of the time policies are built in isolation. There is no stakeholder consultation. The people who are making those policies actually really have no exposure or idea of the situation on the ground, or really would not like to spend the time on having those consultations. And once those policies are developed, they are just not implementable. We heard that word a lot. Policies are not being implemented, but are the policies really implementable? Do they really address the different needs of the users? And then, of course, IT in Pakistan is basically working on silos. In silos, I've come across situations where we went to a department to digitalize their business processes related to cross-border trade, and we found out that there were already systems in place over there which no one was using. And then you find out that government departments have been spending millions on a project which would hardly take a fraction of that cost if we are doing it. And not saying that because we do it better, we just understand how much would it cost to create a system that provides that particular service. In single window, what we have done, and I'm just going to wrap up, is that basically we have taken cognizance of all these issues and we're trying to mitigate them on our own end. So, for example, we have a very active change management program. We reach out to about 600 to 700 people, which include public and private sector stakeholders, in making sure that the message is going out. We are managing the change. People are not afraid of digitalization. We have a very active gender component to make sure that if women lack from digital literacy, assuming that they lack from digital literacy, we are facilitating them in kind of covering up that gap so they could be part of the international supply chain. The way we design our systems is not we going out and imposing a solution. It's working with the government sector, validating their input with the private sector, and then coming up with a system design that is built with consensus, and then making sure that it's a very agile approach in changing those systems. So these are some of the lessons that we have incorporated. Final point: collaboration, coordination, connectivity, that have been our guiding principles in single window, and that is something that we believe can be replicated on a more broader level by the government. The Ministry of IT is there to take the lead for digital transformation. We on the ground are getting some insights on how it can be done, and we assure the IT sector as well as the government sector of our full support on sharing our experience and whatever support we can provide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aftab. That was very smart and very quick. Single window is really the poster child of success within the public sector. So, I mean, in the world of SOEs that are not performing, we have a right example. Another one that we have established, I would like to mention, is National Disaster Risk Management Fund. So I wanted to mention that that's also working and doing well. So I'll go to Dr. Ali. Dr. Saab, you've been with the government in the private sector, academic. He's a PhD from George Mason. So what is the issue now in the ecosystem? Why don't our policies get implemented? So that's a quick comment before I go to the rapid fire round, which I'm sure will be very interesting. Thank you.
Policies and why they are not being implemented. So rather than talking about why they are not implemented, I want to suggest some measures that, can get. So one of the things which is absent, regarding policies is incentives for the politicians and the bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats. So if the incentives are not there, nobody is going to implement them. There is no incentive for the people to implement policies for the senior bureaucrats, secretaries, additional secretaries, because they are promoted not based on implementation of policies. And if they want to implement policies, what they are going to do is they are going to step on someone's feet, which can create problems later on when they are going to be promoted. Then it will expose them to criticism. If they go on the regular basis, nobody is going to criticize it because everything is happening in the same way as in the past. So when you stand up, you expose yourself to the criticism. So that is another thing. Then if you are successful, for example, in an area like IT policy, then you are stuck in the IT policy, which IT ministry or IT area is not something which is considered very, something which bureaucrats and politicians want to be in, whether it's the money or the exposure or whatever. But, an IT secretary would like to, sorry to the bureaucrats sitting here, an IT secretary would like to be Secretary of Finance, chief secretary of a province, and many even secretary industries, because of the fact that they are more powerful. People come to them. For example, if you are secretary industries, you may be offered a multi-billion-dollar for something like allowing export of sugar, or for subsidy on gas prices, which if you look at IT sector, which is based mainly of a lot of companies, small companies, not big companies. So that kind of incentive is not there. So these are the three things which we have to tackle with. So rather than saying again and again that policies are being not implemented, we have to give incentives to politicians and bureaucrats that they have to, something like, for example, if we are talking in the donors parlance, we have to have policy based loans, or something that we can link implementation of policies with with the next tranche or something. Then of course there is the other thing which was touched by Madam Jahara, but was not talked a lot about, is that there is no digital future if there is digital authoritarianism in the country. So if you are not allowing people to speak, or if people are afraid to speak on the internet or do something, they are not going, there is no digital future. So what we see in Pakistan is there are internet shutdowns, which cost, for example, on the Independence Day, or on Eid, just for the security measures, nobody knows what is happening. The whole area or the whole country is stopped. There's no internet available for 5, 6, 10 hours, maybe a day, which costs millions of dollars to the country. As somebody calculated that it was more than $500 million in 2012, back 10 years ago, due to the internet shutdown during Eid in Pakistan. Similar is the case of Ashura. So religious holidays, other holidays, when you do it, then of course there are, the Pakistani state or government has the habit of, making life difficult for intermediary, social media companies, like, for example, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp. So then there is also restrictions on these companies. For example, YouTube was banned from 2012 to 2016 for 4 or 5 years. Recently, in February 2023, Wikipedia was banned for a few days. So if you are doing this in this, then of course there's not much incentive. Then of course there are individual level problems also. Another thing which I want to point out, and other people have also pointed out, is development coordination and synergy. So we are talking about making, making aid smart, so that there is result oriented. But most of the ministries as well as donors are not talking to each other. So Aftab also talked about people working in silos. So this is also something which we have, and this we have been talking about since 2004 earthquake. From that period onwards, we started that we talked about that we, donors should talk to each other and ministries should talk to each other. And then there was also software developed. And then of course, all these things happened. But from 2004 to 2023, we are again at same thing. There are no regular meetings and all that. And of course, I would like to, in the end, I would like to say that, basically and when you're making policies, you be hopeful, but also be humble, because we tend to, as somebody said, that 20 billion in 5 years exports, or 50 billion export. So we have this kind of regular thing that whenever policies are made, they are like out of this world. We will do this and this will happen. So this we have to be careful, that be hopeful, but also be humble. What is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. So if you have these high ambitions, sometimes they also have a good effect, because moon shots are also very good, but moon shots have to be followed up by some hard steps on the ground, so which mostly is missing. So we go to the rapid fire round. An excellent suggestion by Dr. Jodanka in the interest of, I've become a minute minder, but we have Parvez Saab. But Parvez Saab, if you allow me, I'll just go to you directly now for the 3 rapid fire questions. But if you have a comment first, please do make it, follow it up with the 3 rapid fire suggestions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My comment is that I actually declined politely SDPI's invitation to come and speak, because I still had to prepare for my other session. But today I said, okay, I'll go there and I'll sit in the back. On the
you don't have to. You don't need preparation. I know. Yeah.
But anyway, coming to the point, I think the first thing I'll mention 3. First thing is there is no whole of government approach. I mean, IT ministry, even if it tries, it cannot do much. Not because IT ministry is not important, but it's not considered important. It's an unimportant, or let me call it junior, not unimportant. It's considered to be a junior ministry, and where the secretary changes every year, by the way. By the time the secretary knows what IT means, he's gone, and new one comes. The technical staff which is there is all on contracts, or 1 or 2 or 3 year contracts. They are not permanent. So after 1 year, they're already thinking of their next job, or whether they will get an extension or not, and things like that. So whole of government approach, unless it won't work. IT ministry alone cannot do anything. IT ministry, of course, can make policies, which they do. And I must praise that they consult. I mean, the consultations are done via the website. Even now, there are drafts of draft AI policy, for example, which is lying waiting for consultations from stakeholders. And I think personal data protection law was there for 5 years or 4 years, I don't know. So there are consultations and policies are made, but they are not implemented. The implementation is extremely poor. Sagana Saab rightly mentioned that 2003 policy is implemented. Yes, but what about 2015 policy? Exactly in November this month.
It will be implemented in 2030.
It will be 8 years. The policy is maybe, if I am very generous, 50% implemented. So implementation of policies, and I think every policy should be accompanied with an action plan, with an implementation plan. Otherwise, it's just paper, nothing else. And the third thing is, of course, with the telecommunications, pointed out by different friends already here, with the infrastructure. Now, people forget that all these things, AI or IoT or all these buzzwords, Bitcoin, BitChain, everything, nothing works without infrastructure. So connectivity is the #1 prerequisite. And connectivity is where we fail. We fail because, as was mentioned earlier, there are problems with right-of-way. There are problems with the dollarization of spectrum price. There are problems with other policies. The infrastructure providers are, for example, as I rightly mentioned, 67,000 kilometers of fibers long haul and 90,000 kilometers of fibers in urban areas. So, is that right? So, but that's like saying in cellular mobile telephony or internet, there are 40,000 towers, not sites in the country, 40,000 sites in the country, but there are 120,000 towers. Is that a good thing? The problem is that there was no incentive for the infrastructure provider. Therefore, every service provider was, erecting its own tower. The same is happening in fiber now, by the way. Maybe my service provider friend doesn't like it, but I think instead of every service provider laying cable and digging road and laying his own cable, I live in Islamabad in a street in F10 where there are 3 optic fiber cables. Even one is actually more than enough for the for the street because the data carrying capacity is immense. But there is no incentive for the infrastructure provider, which can, others can come and hire the capacity and start working. No investment is required then. So maybe I'll stop here because there are many other things. Maybe 3 point or 1.2 is that the mindset in the government, especially. Mindset in the government is, or wo bahut, you must have heard a lot, वो बहुत पैसा बना रहे हैं. गाड़ी देखिए किस पे आया वो. आपने देखा वो जैज का सीईओ BMW पे आया और कंसेशन मांग रहे हैं. Concession is not what they're asking. They're asking for enablement, facilitation. Otherwise, there is no investment going on in that network. No investment means bad quality of network. You go outside Islamabad, 4G likha aata hai, but it's no 4G. Yeah. So investment is lacking. And that is because of the mindset कि वो बहुत पैसा बना रहे हैं.
Thank you, Professor. I think very well explained. I think in a way it kind of sums up the discussions also. So I'll have to be a minute minder now. So what I'll do is I'll just go through quickly and through the rapid fire round, I think just 3 bullets or 2, or maybe if you prefer just 1, which you think is the magic bullet from your standpoint. So I'll start with maybe Akil Saab, the people who spoke last. So I'll go from my right. So with the permission from the people on the left.
As Praveen said that.
So quickly. So
we have
a minute.
We have 3G, 4G, but when you go outside the Islamabad, you don't get 3G, 4G.
Quickly, sir. Bullet.
So right now we have 6,000 towers. And I think in 5-6 years, which is around, Sargana Saab said around 10%, I am expecting that we will have more than 80% tower fiber connected. And with all these right-of-way issues will be resolved, and out of 40 million households, right now around 1 million are fiber connected, and I am expecting that around 10 to 15% would be fiber connected.
Yeah, that's a lot of bullets. So additionally, I've been reminded that you can also send this in writing if there's something that you think of. Please do. I think probably it's best to maybe right now have just one magic bullet in your opinion, at the top of your mind. What is that? Maybe if you could share just once. Pervez Saab has done it. Usman, whole of government approach. Usman Nasir Saab, for you, what is it that makes the bullet?
There's this project. Thank you. There's this project happening called DEEP, Digital Economy Enhancement Program. And that's a $78 million project funded by the World Bank. Enablement of that, because that creating a data exchange layer across the country's bureaucratic environment, cut down the bureaucracy as much as we can. If we allow the data exchange layer, it will be able to automate the country, not blockchain, data exchange layer.
So data exchange layer it is. Ibrahim Amin Saab.
So I just wanted to focus on what is the root cause of the problem. Our friend Mr.
No, the causes time is over.
Okay,
now. So we have to have the bullet.
The bullet is that there are $70 billion of import in Pakistan against 20 to $30 billion of export. So why don't we stop using imported items?
Okay. So
why don't?
Doctor.
And one point I want to raise, please, that 50% of Pakistan does not have internet. Actually, we are well placed in all galla mandis, feed mills, livestock, and milk collection places in Pakistan. So 50% of Pakistan does not have internet.
Okay, so internet connectivity. Also, I wanted to remind that this program is being live telecast on LinkedIn also. So I just wanted to mention this. So, Dr. Saab, quickly, that's one bullet from you.
Yeah, simple one bullet is after 5 years. I mean, the question was, what would you like to see after 5 years? When I want to see all the micro, small, and medium enterprises in Pakistan working in the domestic sector digitalized fully, and there are 5 million, more than 5 million SMEs or MS or micro, small,
MSMEs. Yes.
Yeah. So I want most of them, if not all, most of them fully digitize their operational their operational processes digitalized in 5 years.
So, Raisab, your one bullet.
Incentivize policymakers. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll before we go to Ministry of Information Technology, and giving you a heads up. So I would request CD Yong to take a couple of minutes. and just lay out the key points. And he's a country director, he's not a Pakistani, so he has his own perspective. So over to you.
Wow. Okay. First of all, I really enjoy the discussion. I found it a very candid, insightful discussion, which I believe provide a lot of nutrition and also food for thought for our TA to continue. Also, some comments maybe I will offer later on. But from what I'm seeing is that there is a lot of commonality that the sector is facing compared with overall what the country is facing. I take note there is inconsistencies in the policies, either lack of implementation or enforcement of regulation, poor infrastructure, poor also human resources capacity or weak institution, and also I also take note that these contradictory sometimes policies that focus on the short-term gain, but at the cost of the long-term benefit and sustainability. I mean, I have seen this or not in other discussion. But what really struck me the most is the implementation. I know there are a few policies have been developed. They also review be done and keep on emphasizing the lack of implementation. So that's really I want to urge this team, our TA team, really focus on the implementation, implementable, actionable recommendation for the ministry. We will not just give a perfect summary of the issue or analysis about the issue, then stop there. Really, I think implementation is the key. That is the first step. Second, even when you look at implementation, the issue is pretty complicated. I would say you need prioritization. Using what we talk about today, IT investment in the country. I would think there's probably not much to go from whatever my experience in the country. But rather than taking that as our target right now, yes, we need to keep that in our view in long term. But what are the immediate things that we can do and can benefit the country? For example, we're all talking about freelancers. Have they actually been fully utilized? What the country, what all of us can do to help them to access the market, to help them to enhance their value to the market. That is one. Second one, how much we can really start investing in our human resources, in our capacity. How much we can strengthen our institution. Maybe this can be taken midterm. When you solve your step 1, step 2 issue, you will see step 3 is not really far away already. So in your sense, we need really some prioritization that will be helping implementation. I also take note some recommendation for their accountability, for the, I believe maybe some interim target could be also useful in this regard. But all in all, I think we need to look at more actionable recommendation under our team. That's the first. Second, quite often I have seen, because I come from China. So in China, we put a lot of value on the action, not much on the talk. Because we believe if you keep on talking, you stay at the same place and you debate. You might come up with the perfect framework, but when you start implement it, you will find they are not perfect anymore. So what's important is take on the step, and the action itself, the implementation itself will tell you some adjustment you need on your policy, on your roadmap. So again, learning by doing will be something we need to also bear all the time in mind over this process. So, but thank you very much. I found it is very, very useful and insightful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, CD Young. So over to Ali Asghar Saab from the Ministry of Information Technology for his closing remarks or observations. So, whoever he wants to take it.
Thank you, Nasser. Thank you, STPI and ADB for providing this opportunity for a very comprehensive, thought-provoking roundtable. We appreciate Asian Development Bank for very timely intervention to support IT sector of Pakistan, especially in the shape of TA. And no doubt, the IT industry, the global IT industry is a huge and complex industry. It has hundreds of sectors and subsectors. And similarly, the reflection in Pakistan is also, we are facing the same challenges as the global IT industry is facing. Especially after the advent of new technologies, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, blockchain. So these technologies are new challenges for all over the world as well as Pakistan. So we have evolving international best practices all over the world, and we are learning from experience of others, and all we are confronting all the challenges. And as we expand our exposure, we have required to intervene in our policy with the passage of time. I agree with both various participants have pointed out the enforcement part, the how part of policy. Yes, I agree with Pravez Saab that we are a junior ministry, no doubt. When we joined civil service in 96, 97, so there was no IT ministry, there was no IT policy. And I was just recalling my personal experience that in 97, I was working with Minister of Science and Technology. And Comsat introduced the DSL connections. And Mr. Zaidi came to Minister and he gave Minister and me a complimentary DSL connection. So it was a very privilege for us to use the internet for many hours. So our journey started from that point, and now we are many new areas and new challenges have been, we have talked about a lot about all these areas. Yes, I agree that as far as policies are concerned, we have very comprehensive policies. In IT sector and telecom sector, I have been associated for the last 15 years. And I have part of many committees and legislative committees and policy committees. And when we start policy making process, we have a vision, mission statements, we have long-term, short-term plans, we have road maps, frameworks, KPIs, everything is catered for. In the process of policy making, we have study reports, we have consultants reports, we have stakeholders consultations, and then we publish first draft and second draft and final draft, and then we try to keep on board all the stakeholders. And the major challenge which I have seen in my career is building the consensus among these stakeholders. When we were working on Electronic Crimes Act, Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, I remember that it took 3 to 4 years to prepare a consensus draft. And finally, and it was with the intervention of Islamabad High Court that we were able to finalize the draft of Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act. So the legislation, policy making, these all are challenges. But despite all challenges, odds, and political issues in Pakistan, there is always a light at the tunnel, as the theme is reflecting at the back of our chairs. Light at the tunnel. So I am optimistic, as most of the participants are optimistic, that as Mr. Sargana pointed out, the infrastructure, the good news about the infrastructure of Pakistan. So I will also say that in IT sector, we have the potential. And recently, today, actually, there was a launch of a study report on IT export strategy. And the consultants, PwC, they have also pointed out the same thing, that the Pakistan IT exports have potential of being global tech hub. Pakistan has the potential to become global tech hub. Pakistan has the potential to 10 to 18 billion US dollar export per year potential, if we can realize that potential. So we are the 5th largest country. We have 19,000 IT companies. The Pasha Madam was sitting here and representative of Pasha. Pasha is representing more than 1,000 active IT companies in Pakistan. We have 400,000 freelancers in Pakistan. They are contributing in Pakistan's economy. And as far as policies and if we look at the digital Pakistan policy, I was just looking one page, is called Roles and Responsibility Metrics. It has listed all the initiatives which have been listed in this policy, and they have also pointed out key areas, lead ministries, and facilitating ministries departments. So there is a need when we talk about the implementation, enforcement of policies, there is a need to collaborate and integrate all the departments and all the ministries. So the Ministry of IT, being a junior ministry, cannot do alone everything. So the policy documents are always very comprehensive. So though we are also in the process of reviewing the policy documents, and we will also be beneficial from the technical assistance by the Asian Development Bank for the policy areas. I just want to a light at the tunnel. If we look at the light at the tunnel, I just want to point out that under public sector development program, we have more than 30 projects, active projects in Ministry of IT. We are building 2 IT parks worth more than $250 million with the assistance of Korean Exim Bank. The one IT park is at Islamabad and the other one is at Karachi. So both are under progress. We have 25 software technology parks under a PSDP project. Mr. Nasser has pointed out DEEP. So DEEP is also under a process of execution. So we are just starting. We are waiting for the ECC decision about one segment of DEEP, and it will be initiated. And recently, the government of Pakistan has initiated another 5 billion rupees project, which is a venture capital and Pakistan Startup Fund. That is also going to be initiated soon, and it's under the process of. It will include the 250 e-Rozgar centers and the 1 billion rupees capacity building programs. Similarly, we have a 6 billion rupees program project of blended learning program under virtual university. PSAB, Mr. Nasser has initiated various projects, and we are currently we have 8-9 programs under PSAB, which are under near completion. Similarly, we have a large project of cyber security in Pakistan. Recently, you have seen the issuance of CERT rules. Government of Pakistan has issued the CERT rules under the cybersecurity policy, and other programs like National Freelance Incubation Center, digital skills programs, high skill boot camp. So I can fairly say that there is a light at the tunnel, and if we just need, and there is need, if I wind up my talk, I would say that we have to identify gaps, corrective measures in the existing policies, and Ministry of IT would always welcome if anyone want to point out, identify any gap in these policies so that we can take care in the next policy. We need support how to enforce the policy. So we would also welcome any suggestion to enforce these initiatives. Then we need to study the best international practices and identify new areas for policy intervention in Pakistan. We also need an awareness and stakeholders consensus. We need awareness about the policy interventions, and we need a consensus building mechanism process between the stakeholders. So obviously all the experts in IT sector can play a role by writing articles and by putting their suggestions so that we can build consensus as early as possible on legislation, on policies and implementation framework. So last but not the least, we need a capacity building, as Mr. Ali Salim pointed out, that capacity building of the ministries, the officers, who we need specialization for implementation in the project execution as well as policy enforcement. So, so this is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali Asghar Saab. I really wish to thank everyone, and including the gentlemen on my left and right, for lending your time to this event to us. It means a lot to us. Time is the coin of our lives. So that's what we spend, and we should spend it wisely. And thank you for doing it for us. That means a lot. And also thank you, the STPI team who's been covering this, who's been organizing this, who's been following us up for this. I wish to thank them also. It's been an honor mediating this session and being part of this exercise. I've learned a lot myself. I just want to mention this, that there is refreshments, coffee and tea. Please don't leave without having that, and it will be also there is an after party after the party. So this is the after party Pakistan version STPI. So let's have some connectivity. Yeah, there is a group photo also. We would really request you to join, but do join us for tea and coffee.